Let's go ahead and talk about deploying on Google Cloud using some of the DevOps services such as Cloud Source Repositories, Cloud Build, Container Registry, and Kubernetes Engine as well. Now, if we want to go ahead and deploy a CI or CD pipeline, these are the services that we generally want to consider. On the exam, you're going to be tested on, what is the workflow that you want to consider based on the case study or the scenario that they present you. So let's talk about this. So let's go ahead and assume that we have, for example, here, let me do this. We have right here our application, and our workflow is going to go this way. So whether it's basically, let's say we have an application. This application, we need to have our basically deployment using Kube engine or containers. We want to manage these containers. So we might have two repositories, production and a development, for example, whatever that may be. But basically in this case, our workflow will go similar to this. So we go this way, we go this way. Okay. So now let's go back here and make this a little bit easier to read. And let's go ahead and talk first. Now, if we're going to deploy source code, we need to have a repository for that source code. We could use GitHub, Bitbucket, or if we're using Google Cloud, Google has what's called Cloud Source Repositories. So we want to use Cloud Source Repositories. I'm going to make that short. Then after it goes out of the repository, we need to have it, of course, triggered out or pulled out. Basically, we want to use what's called Cloud Build. And Cloud Build is really meant for deploying our CD pipeline, our deployment services. After we go here, we want to go ahead and push the image. And then to complete out our repositories, we, of course, again, would want to have our manifest on generally our cloud source repositories and then Cloud Build as well to essentially be able to deploy our manifests. And this would generally be done via a trigger in most cases. So remember too, Cloud Build, it's a pipeline. It's going to run a test, essentially build an image, push it out to container registry. After it pushes it out to container registry, it needs to, of course, run that on GKE and pull in the manifest. And again, that's why we need to have, of course, two pipelines in this specific case. Once again, there's going to be some interesting questions on the exam. And what I would do is at least get in your head before you take the exam, where does repositories fit in Cloud Build and Container Registry and GKE? And how do we solve problems for the customer on the case study or in the question itself, depending on how the exam question is going to portray the solution and ask you to provide the right answer to complete the solution in most cases. One of the things too to point out is on one or two questions I had noticed that you'll get a diagram. And the diagram may look, somewhat prettier than this, but you'll have like this service filled in like Cloud Source Repositories, but Cloud Build will be empty and GKE will be empty. And then they'll ask you to select the proper order of what the question, is asking for. So they'll have what services do you recommend in what order? Well, you'd have to put Cloud Build in the answer on the test. And then let's say GKE in this case. And again, it's fairly straightforward when you take the exam if you do understand each of these services and where they fit in a pipeline. If you don't, then spend some time. Make sure you get ready for the exam. They definitely like to talk about DevOps, more than a couple questions overall on DevOps, and it'll be on exactly what we just talked about.